It's the high school football game of the week.
Listen, man, tonight is the night to make the name for yourself.
Not one, but two of the best games in the Triad every Friday.
All comes down to today.
Catch the action on WTOB 980 AM and 96.7 FM.
Who got my back?
Or tune in to our second game on WCOG 1320 AM. Both games powered by TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com, your home for Triad Sports.
Hey, y'all, Tiny's Mobile Auto. Is your car broke down? Are you stuck somewhere? Do you need a mechanic? You don't want to call a tow truck? Call Tiny's Mobile Auto. He'll come out to you, do your work, whatever you need done, your regular maintenance, or if you broke down on the side of the road, give him a call. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call 336-423-6241. You don't even have to see me. Just let me know what's wrong with your car, and I will come and fix it, y'all. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, I'm on the Twitters, whatever you guys need, 336-423-6241. As always, I'll be seeing you.
You deserve to get good service and great rates. At State Farm, we get it. And we're here to help because with every State Farm policy, you get good neighbor service and you get surprisingly great rates. So what are you waiting for? Get going and talk to a local State Farm agent about your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
When you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Susanna Nunn in Kernersville today.
Charlotte out of timeout. Here's Morning. The shot. Game over.
Who's going to get off? Here he comes. Here he comes. He's got him this time. It's going to be a drag race. Wow. They touch. Craven got him.
By Lundquist. Now Ponagorowski with it. 2-1 in front. Block there. Scramble for it there. They poke away at it. Still it's loose. Poked out by Cobleton. They score. Entry. It's over.
The runner at third, nobody out in the first and didn't score. Second and third, one out in the second and didn't score. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run, and the Cardinals have won the game.
Welcome to The Score. Here's your host, Brett Wiseman.
Okay, there we go. Welcome to The Score with Brett Wiseman here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Brett Wiseman, joined by Christian Emery, our producer Desmond Johnson, and four of our very fine plastic friends. That would be Aaron Rodgers, Brett Hull, Ozzie Smith, and Rogers Hornsby. I am a nerd, in case you did not realize that. Anyways, speaking of baseball, there's quite a bit to get to. Hey guys, I'm going to refresh and come back out because this is being weird.
I was going to say,
Des, why don't you take over and yeah.
All right. Well, welcome to The Score. I'm not Brett Wiseman. I'm his producer Desmond Johnson, joined by the illustrious Christian Emery. Brett having some microphone issues. He'll be back on here shortly. Today we have Major League Baseball Major League Baseball trade deadline recap. If you were with us earlier this week, Brett and Brett was a part of a huge 3-hour-long trade deadline show that went really, really well with Larry Frank from Frankly Speaking Sports. We'll be getting into that today as well. Training camp's going on all across the NFL. We'll touch on that a little bit too. And a little bit more. Looks like we got Brett back here. Let's check your sound. Brett, how you doing?
Let's see. How do I sound now,
there,
guys?
You sound much
there
better.
We go. That's better.
Yeah. So,
I'm still, Des, as you said. Yeah, that special was fun.
It was fun. That was really cool because we haven't done anything like that before. We did a bracket preview for the tournament for the NCAA.
Yeah, but never anything as things were breaking. So
right,
that was
nothing like that. Yeah.
That was fun because I was on Twitter. I had MLB Network on in the background. I was looking left and right trying to break stuff. It cool, like
and
really
you guys
really
had
cool.
A lot of really good guests too from all over the country, analysts, play-by-play guys. It was just really good. It was loaded. So shout out to you and shout out to Larry for that. That was a really good show earlier in the week.
Christian, I know Christian tuned in. He was a little confused, like most Red Sox fans, as to what exactly the motive was for them. We'll get to that in a second. But Juan Soto's a San Diego Padre. Raise your hand if you saw that coming. Correct, no one. And Christian, I'll get your thoughts on all this stuff in a minute. But as bummed out as I was that the Cardinals did not get him, after the fact, I wonder how much, truthfully, the Cardinals and the Dodgers both were in on Soto over the course of the last 72 hours leading up to the deadline, when it seemed like the Cardinals were the favorite, and then the Dodgers were the favorite, then the Dodgers were out, then the Cardinals were the favorite, and then the Cardinals weren't the favorite, then the Padres got the deal done. Apparently, the difference all along we thought was going to be Patrick Corbin being thrown into it. He's still a Washington National. In fact, it's Josh Bell. So San Diego gets somebody better than the first baseman than they had, Eric Hosmer, who's now a Boston Red Sox. But it begs the question to me, how much, truthfully, really were St. Louis and the Los Angeles Dodgers in on Juan Soto? Because if that was San Diego's offer, could it have been overpaid by either of the other two in the mix? Yes. Without completely mortgaging the future? No, absolutely not. Christian, your fellow Christian, Vasquez, in one of the oddities of the trade deadline, which is the guy that gets traded and switches clubhouses because the team he's been traded to is who his other team was supposed to play. So that's weird. Albeit the two teams at the forefront of 2018 cheating scandals, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, you're not going to speak. You're not going to speak on that, are you? Nope.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Good call. Good call. I said this on the special. To me, it seems like Red Sox management, there's something they're trying to do, but I want to hear what you think first.
You pretty much summed it up. I have no idea what they were trying to do. I'm confused. I expected them to be as much of a seller as they were willing to be, sellers as much as they were willing to be. The Vasquez trade confused me. Don't get me wrong. I think I told you that via text or something like that as we were talking about the stuff.
Confused both of us, honestly. So.
And then to go out and get Eric Hosmer, which I'm fine with. I told you I'm fine with it. I like the move. But they're not – I don't know. I think they're just trying to – at this point, they know odds of them making the playoffs are dwindling. I'll put it that way.
Okay, well, so then you ask yourself, why don't we just go full sell mode? Because you saw what the San Francisco Giants did. Not 25, 30 minutes after the Soto deal to the Padres was finalized, you saw the Giants reports coming out that they were open for business, that Carlos Rodon was on the market. They dealt Darren Ruff to the Mets. Jock Peterson was available. Pretty much half their roster was on the market because they were all on expiring contracts. That's how the Giants do things now. But so you ask yourself, why don't you go full sell mode? Because the Giants saw their pecking order in the NL West and said, yeah, we got no shot. We might want to offload some assets here. The Red Sox, very well, in that American League wild card, all three of those teams could be from that division. They could be you. It could be you, Toronto, and Tampa Bay. Or it could be you, Toronto, and Baltimore. Baltimore decided to sell off two pieces. That's also questionable. We'll get to that in a second. But what your front office is trying to do, Christian, is one of the most difficult things to do in any sport, but probably most difficult to do in baseball from a roster building perspective, which is when you play in a division like this, at the deadline, you're not a buyer, you're not a seller. You're not both, or you're not one or the other. You're also not hands off.
Yeah.
What Boston's tried to do at this deadline is they've tried to emphasize still, keep a competitive enough team on the field to win and make the postseason, while still building somewhat for the future. They're trying to strike that perfect balance, and there's maybe a handful of teams ever in any sport, let alone baseball, that have done that.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I don't know if you saw earlier today. It was either yesterday or today. They released Jackie Bradley Jr. for whatever reason, but yeah, that's a difficult strategy to try to find that balance. And given the complexities of Major League Baseball, it's probably the most unpredictable of any of the major sports in terms of what you're going to get day in and day out. It's difficult to try to, like I said, it's difficult to try to find that balance. And did the Red Sox necessarily get better?
No, but they also didn't get worse.
Exactly.
Because the thing we talked about was, all right, Bogart's endeavors are probably gone. One or both of them are gone in free agency. It would behoove you to get something for them before they walk. Instead, you decide to hang on to both of them because management still believes there's a chance to make the postseason. But you still sell off a couple of fairly expendable pieces. The one that we all thought was going to get moved was Nady Eovaldi. He did not. The story, this was an evolving deadline.
Yeah.
And a wild one, a historic one at that. The Soto trade may end up being the biggest in the history of baseball simply because of the amount of capital in terms of prospects that the Nationals got back. They got exactly what they wanted. You saw Alex's Mariners give up 3 of their top 5 prospects for Luis Castillo. And I said this on the special. The Mariners have not made the postseason since 2001. Some may ask why you would give up 3 of your top 5 prospects for someone who's just in the past year and a half or so in Cincinnati started to come into his own as their ace. He hasn't proven it in the postseason yet. That's because he's played in Cincinnati. You may ask yourself, why sell the farm? The Mariners weren't done, by the way. They still went out and did more. They pretty much traded 7 of their top 10 prospects because the Mariners' mindset is, you don't hang banners for best farm system 5 years running. They haven't made the postseason since I was 4 years old. So that's 20, 21 years ago. It's a long time. Very long time. It's like Buffalo Billsian-esque playoff drought. Postseason drought.
Sorry. At this point, it's Buffalo Sabre playoff drought, but continue.
Buffalo in general. All right, yeah. Poverty city. Anyways, in terms of sports, no, it's not what I'm saying. Nobody come at me about economics. Anyways, they're all in. There's teams we saw that were all in. Seattle probably being the biggest one of them because not only did they go out and they got their ace, they improved a position that for them offensively has been less than stellar at catcher, getting Kurt Casale from the San Francisco Giants, and they added some depth on the bench too. So, look, if we're talking winners and losers, the Padres especially, okay, you get Juan Soto, automatically you win the trade deadline. Okay, we knew that. Anybody the team that got him was going to win the deadline.
Yeah, when it comes to the Padres, I feel like they're in win now mode. They have a window of the next maybe 3 to 4 years where they think they can make a run at a world title. Will they? I don't know, because Major League Baseball's playoffs are a whole different animal than the regular season.
Right.
But, I mean...
And they've now been expanded. So we have 3 wild cards now. But I think if I had to pick an American League and a National League winner, my American League winner's got to be Seattle. They got better in every sense of the word. The Yankees perplexed me a little bit. They trade away one of their better starting pitchers. Thanks, by the way. For a center fielder from St. Louis who has not played a game since mid-May and may not play again until September, and they deal their number 3 starter for St. Louis, whose entire rotation was just number 3 starters before this week when they got Jose Quintana, who, by the way, last night went 7 innings of 1-run baseball, and unlike many other Cardinals pitchers this year, actually figured out how to throw a strike consistently and go longer than 4 innings. The Cardinals needed starting pitching desperately. Harrison Bader's been a key part of that team, but he's from New York. He has a Statue of Liberty glove, okay? He's going to love playing there when he does. He hasn't played since mid-May with the foot thing. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. We're doing it winners and losers. Mariners, obviously, American League winner. Yankees, perplexing.
Yeah.
National League winner. San Diego, 100%. Loser, Milwaukee. Here's why. They got swept by the Pirates the last 3 days since the trade deadline. They lost. They had a 3.5 game lead on St. Louis before 6 o'clock Tuesday. They traded Josh Hader about that time on Monday. They were swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates and now sit tied atop the NL Central with the St. Louis Cardinals. Guys in the clubhouse even said they didn't know why Josh Hader was traded, and they were confused, and they were a little bit upset by it. Josh Hader's the best closer in baseball right now, period. For some ungodly, unknown reason, he gets shipped to San Diego for the second best closer in the National League, and a paperclip and a bag of string. I heard the reasoning be the Brewers didn't want to pay him. You had to... Okay. Why do it mid-season?
Yeah. I mean, especially if you're in the thick of a divisional race with, I guess, that you had a 3.5 game, like I said, a 3.5 game lead. I don't know. I don't know. We see this time throughout sports. Every year there's one team in pretty much every league that makes that move of like, okay, that they make that head scratching move.
Right.
In this case, it's the Brewers getting rid of their closer to San Diego or whoever you.
They swapped closers. They got San Diego's closer back and gave the closer job to Devin Williams, who's a fantastic reliever, but 2 of those 3 games they got swept, he blew a save. The front office said, okay, we know that we have 2 of the best relievers in baseball right here. We're going to get rid of one of them. Devin, you're the closer. Go get the job done. And he blew it 2 nights in a row against one of the 5 worst teams in baseball. As a result, these guys are now tied atop the division in a division where those 2 teams are the only ones that have any shred of a chance. It boggles me.
Welcome to summer baseball.
No kid. Welcome to Milwaukee baseball, because they're not. This is not the first time they've made some questionable moves at the deadline, whether it's buying or selling. But there's a lot to break down. We could sit here for the 3 hours that Larry and I did leading up to the actual deadline and try and break this stuff down. As wacky as these wild card races are, they're just going to get worse. Or wackier, I should say. The Phillies got Noah Syndergaard. Unironically, there was a giant lightning strike behind center field the night he started.
I saw that.
You can't make that up.
Nope.
His nickname is Thor, by the way, because he looks like him. So if that went over anybody's head, there you go. The Angels were never really going to move Shohei Ohtani.
No, I doubt it.
That was never seriously considered. Anyone who thought it was is objectively wrong and doesn't know what they're talking about.
How much longer is he under contract for?
Till 2024, 25. But here's the kicker. The Angels sold off Brandon Marsh to the Phillies, and Raisel Iglesias to the Braves. That was a good deal for the Braves. I'll get to the Braves in a second, too. But, did you see what the Angels did yesterday, Christian?
No, I did not.
They hit 7 solo home runs.
Good Lord.
And lost.
Only in Anaheim. Oh, good Lord.
Remember what I said a few weeks ago on the show about the Angels not having any pitching? Case in point. They lost after hitting 7 home runs against one of the 5 worst teams in baseball, the Oakland A's, in front of all 13 season ticket holders. Congratulations.
Wow.
Anyways. Yeah. All right. So, wild deadline, historic deadline. The Soto deal, it's a classic, time will tell. But you look at the Padres right now, they're probably the favorite in the National League. It's not just Soto and Bell. You throw them in there with Tatis and Manny Machado. Will Myers is still there. Jurickson Profar. They got Brandon Drury from the Reds, who hit a grand slam his first at-bat. They've still got good pitching. They've got Yu Darvish. Those guys are loaded. They got to be the favorite in the NL right now. The Mets got better, too. Mets added some good pieces as well. But one more thing before we get in a break here. Starting tonight, 1/3 of the total World Series championships in Major League history will be on the same field at the same time. Cardinals and Yankees have won 1/3 of the total World Series titles ever handed out. And they'll be playing 3 this weekend at Busch Stadium, of course. Yankees with 27, Cardinals with 11. That's 1/3 of the total. So, baseball royalty getting together for the first time in 8 years tonight, starting in St. Louis. When we come back, Deshaun Watson, there's been some developments on that. But more importantly, there was an actual football game played last night, number one. Number two, 2 guys who should have been in the Hall of Fame 15 years ago are finally getting in, and we'll show you some of their stuff next.
You are listening to The Score with Brett Wiseman on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Sedgefield Lawn and Landscape Supply is your one-stop shop for your lawn. Family-owned, serving customers residential or commercial. Check out our large selection of mulch, pine needles, sand, gravel, grass seed, fertilizer, herbicides. They even do propane fill-ups. And if you're looking for lawn care equipment, you won't find a better spot in the Triad than Sedgefield Outdoor Equipment. Visit them today, 5111 Mackey Road in Jamestown, North Carolina. Give them a call at 336-292-6800 and follow them on Facebook and Twitter. Walkertown Auto Sales. Look no further when shopping for your next vehicle. Located in the heart of the Triad at 3076 Walkertown View Drive in Walkertown, Walkertown Auto Sales specializes in affordable and reliable used cars, trucks, and SUVs. They offer financing with good credit, bad credit, or no credit, with interest rates as low as 3.9%. With knowledgeable employees that are always willing to go the extra mile, you'll drive away with the car of your dreams at Walkertown Auto Sales. Check out the entire online inventory now at WalkertownAutoSales.com. Welcome to J. Pepper's Southern Grill, locally owned and operated, serving the Kernersville community for over 10 years. Delicious homemade Southern food with a menu with a little something for everyone. With daily lunch and dinner specials, you can't go wrong choosing J. Pepper's, home of The Nest with East Forsyth head coach Todd Willard, every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. live during the season. Plus Wine Wednesday with half-price wine all day and live music every Thursday night. Come join the fun at J. Pepper's Southern Grill, 841 Old Winston Road in Kernersville. Call in your order now at 336-497-4727.
Hey, Pops, where you want to go eat tonight?
I'm going to go get me some good Southern cooking at Ball Brothers down by the airport in Winston.
No, Pops, it's Bell Brothers, and they closed years ago. It's Taste of the Triad now.
Taste of the Triad? Is it in the old Ball Brothers building?
Yup.
Can I still get baked chicken and collard greens?
Sure can.
How about neck bones, meatloaf, and pork chops?
Taste of the Triad has all that.
So they ain't got pinto beans, tater salad, mac and cheese, or fried okra?
Pops, they have all that, plus homemade cakes and cobblers and sweet potato pie.
Well, then I don't care what they call it. Let's go eat.
Taste of the Triad. Open daily for lunch with $5.99 specials from 11 to 2 and chef specials daily. Don't miss the Saturday brunch from 9 to 1 and the soulful Sunday dinner when you come out of church full of the word, but hungry for Southern comfort food. Taste of the Triad in the old Bell Brothers building at Old Walkertown Road and North Liberty in Winston-Salem.
That's good Southern cooking.
Carolina Cobras,
If I take that field, if my game starts to slide, I have no fear. If my brother got my gun,
catch them all season long
that's all we got. That's all we got.
on your home for Triad Sports.
Oh, are we ready? Are we ready? Oh, we ready?
TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Welcome back to The Score with Brett Wiseman here on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.
Straight from the NBA Live 07 soundtrack. Good stuff, Dad. I don't know. I know that was one of Timbaland's songs was on the NBA Live 07 soundtrack.
Yes, that's Nelly Furtado from Promiscuous featuring Timbaland.
Yes.
And it did come out in 07.
Nelly Furtado. Trivia. Who was on the cover of that game?
What year? You said 07?
NBA Live 07.
Probably either Kobe or Steve Nash.
Tony Parker.
Wow. Oh, they just came off of championship. They beat the Pistons.
One of the finals, yes.
Yeah.
But anyways, neither here nor there.
Most boring NBA Finals series possibly ever.
Let's see. We had LeBron and then whatever guys he picked up from the local Cleveland Boys and Girls Club.
Booby Gibson, them fellas.
Them fellas.
Yeah. Well, they won 60 games. I remember that. But they just, ran to the Spurs.
That should have been a Detroit Eastern Conference pennant three-peat. But anyways, again, neither here nor there. Deshaun Watson. Let's talk about that guy for a second. Or a few seconds. Because there's a lot to unpack there. Christian, we talked about this via text.
Yep.
This whole independent arbitrator thing that was agreed upon because of the league's inconsistency with suspensions is the whole reason the independent arbitrator thing was put into the CBA. However, now, the first time it's used, the NFL acts like they shouldn't have used it to begin with.
Yeah, that's about right. I mean, this entire situation is, I can't use the exact words I used in the text message because we'll get fined. But this entire situation is
I appreciate the restraint, Christian. That's good. That's good.
This entire situation is, for lack of being able to use a better phrase, it's a mess.
It's a cluster. Just stop there. Stop with cluster.
It feels like the problem is that they're the independent judge or whoever, Sue L. Robinson. It feels like she's trying to use precedent for this one, but you can't use precedent for this.
This is the first time this has ever been used.
Yeah, you almost have to draw a line, like a wall, and be like, okay.
You have to create the precedent, Des.
Right. Well, they messed up before. There was no reason to how they were doing these. And it feels like she's trying to use reason and apply it off of the things they didn't use reason for previously.
Exactly.
Which is how they got to 6 games, where really what she did was it should have been like a 12-game suspension and it would end up at 6. But she put it at 6. So it made it where she skipped a step, basically which is what she was supposed to do. It's supposed to save everybody time. But the NFL
and it's supposed to
get just 6 games ever. That was never going to happen.
It's supposed to provide transparency on these things. The whole idea was to provide transparency and consistency because the players' union was not okay any longer with Roger Goodell being judge, jury, and executioner. And all we've heard for the past 3 days is, all right, Deshaun Watson gets 6 games for doing all the stuff he did, whether he did it or not. And Calvin Ridley got a year suspension for betting on a game he didn't even play in. So, look, here's the point. And I'll get to Josh in a second. Here's the point. The one thing that a lot of general people, fans, don't know is that to violate the personal conduct policy, you don't have to be convicted of a crime. You don't have to have X amount of civil lawsuits. You don't have to be charged with anything. If you make the league look bad, that is the violation, period. 1A. If you make the NFL look bad, if you put the NFL in a bad light, that is a violation of the personal conduct policy. Deshaun Watson has made the league look bad. Calvin Ridley, by betting, made the league look bad. You don't have to actually do anything criminally wrong. Now, I'm not saying Deshaun Watson didn't do this because he hasn't been convicted of anything. We don't know. And I should also point out, and in a really, really disgusting twist of irony, the National Massage Therapists Association conference, gentlemen, is taking place, wait for it, a mile away from the Cleveland Browns Stadium.
I saw that. Do you think did they announce that before he signed with Cleveland, or was that like recently? Like, was that already on the calendar?
I don't know. I saw it pop up today, and I was like, that's
just, yeah.
that's a disgusting twist of irony. But Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Christian put it, I think, the best way that you could put it. This whole situation's a mess. How it started, where it is now, and the repercussions of this, of what's going on with Deshaun Watson. I just find it ironic. I don't want to use inconsistency, but I'll use inconsistency of the NFL when it comes to these types of penalties. Calvin Ridley, you mentioned it. He's not playing this season because he bet on a game
that he did not play in.
That he did not play in. Josh Gordon was suspended for over 25 games because he was smoking marijuana. Vontez Burfict was suspended for 12 games for targeting. DeAndre Hopkins, 6 games for PED. I mean, where is the consistency here? And I feel like with what Deshaun did, I don't feel like 6 games is the right penalty.
No.
I thought there was going to be more.
Close.
I thought there was going to be more games that he was going to be suspended for. But that's the big thing for me is where is the consistency with the National Football League, with Commissioner Goodell, all of the higher ups in the NFL? Where is the consistency here? You got to have a consistency when it comes to giving out the severity of penalties and the repercussions. They all need to have a firm, a firm base and a firm understanding. Okay, this is what you did, and this is the amount of games you're going to be suspended. This is the amount of time you're going to be suspended. It's just inconsistent all around, and I feel like the NFL could have done a better job in this situation regarding Deshaun Watson as well.
I would actually say, to add on to what Josh is saying, I think that if the NFL decided to not appeal this, that would have been the start of consistency. Like the independent counsel is supposed to be the beginning of consistency, but I think having a week for the media to stew on this, because literally every talking head is like, oh, that's not enough. It should be more. Right. It should be more. Like I haven't seen a single person say.
Well, all 4 of us knew that wasn't going to be the final number, right?
But it should be based off of her decision, right?
Exactly.
People just can't help themselves, and they're going off of the wave of media coverage where they want more. And even the Browns thought it was going to be more than this because they're only paying them $1 million for this first year. They knew it was going to be this season.
That didn't come out until very recently. That it was built into the contract that they assumed he was pretty much not going to play any, if at all.
No, that was out. That was out when they signed him because we talked about it on. That's
Monday. Right, we did.
Because we were looking at it like, oh, so wait a minute, the Browns are only going to give him $1 million base salary for this year, and then the rest of it's going to be guaranteed after. That sounds like the Browns don't expect him to play this year, like at all. So,
well, remember, the NFL was pushing for an indefinite suspension that would be no less than a year.
Right.
But the idea here was, again, the players' union was not okay with Roger Goodell being judge, jury, and executioner. That's why you bring in the independent arbitrator, Sue L. Robinson. But in my mind, I knew whatever number she came up with was not going to be the final number because I knew what Roger Goodell was going to do. I knew what was built in Roger Goodell having the power to do. This really changes nothing. Roger Goodell could make it more. He could make it less. He could make it null. He could make it 2 full seasons. Now he has the power again. So my question is, why use the independent third-party arbitrator if you were just going to appeal it regardless of what she said?
I don't know if it was regardless of what she said. If she had said 12 games or, the full season, I don't think
regardless of what if it wasn't what the NFL wanted, if it wasn't the indefinite suspension that the NFL wanted, they were going to appeal it.
Yeah, they were going to appeal, and the Players Association kind of messed up by saying they weren't going to appeal it, but they were fine because it sounds like the NFLPA just wants it to be done.
Right.
But now they're in a situation where they're going to have to fight for Deshaun when they did not want to. And to be honest, if the independent counsel had just said 6 games plus like $3 million or something like that, because she put no monetary fine on this, and I think that's the main thing the NFL wants, then that would have.
The NFL wants a substantial fine on top of the indefinite suspension.
But she didn't put anything on there, so that she left the bed unmade for the NFL when she was hired to actually make the bed. And now you've got Roger Goodell back in the same position he was in before, where he's having to be the jury and the judge for 32 NFL owners that pay him to work for them, but he's supposed to govern them. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, the dynamic between the NFL commissioner and the owners.
Christian?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about this entire thing is the word inconsistency sums up this entire thing, and kind of redundancy to some extent too. But I mean, if he's going to go, I think they might, if they're going to appeal this and it ends up in a courtroom, which I read somewhere or read something from ESPN that it might end up in a courtroom, which would not surprise me at all, given the severity of what he supposedly did. I don't see how the NFL, like Roger Goodell or whoever's representing the NFL, gets what they want. If they want an indefinite suspension, I don't see how they get that if the arbiter just started just 6 games.
Right.
That to me, that I don't see how
it's going to be hard to move it up that far.
Exactly. Yeah, I could see maybe
or even a minimum, even a full season. It's going to be hard to move it up to 16, 18 games, 16, 17 games
with no guilty counts or anything of the sort. Yeah, and he's settled with all of them, but like 2, I believe.
I think 23 or 24 have been settled. Was the last my count, but
what's the right number? What's the magic number? Like, what would have been the number that would have satisfied all part? Well, there would have been a number to. I mean, Deshaun Watson's camp still saying 6 is too many, but
yeah,
what would have been the number to satisfy the media? I guess is the best question to ask.
No idea. No number. Indefinite.
Indefinite just seems so
fake.
Like you're cutting down a top 5 quarterback in his prime. Yes, I understand the allegation, but you have to look at that too.
That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
The media perspective is the allegations. They're looking at the heinousness and the seriousness of them. And I would have pushed for what the NFL pushed for, which was 1 season, but no, they said no less than 1 season. So
already sat
because you set a precedent. Not that what Calvin Ridley did is anything close to what Deshaun Watson supposedly did, but you set that precedent.
He already sat a season, though. He sat last year. So really, he'd be sitting 2 seasons, right? If you did it again for this year. He hasn't played since January of 2021, I believe.
Des, as bluntly as I can put it, that's not my problem. Because if he did what he did, he chose to do it.
But we don't know if he did it. That's my point. Like
that's
can't
the other
thing. Not knowing for
that's
sure.
The double-edged sword of all of this, right?
Yeah. Now, if there's smoke, there's fire, usually. So I mean, we all can assume what we want, but we can't punish him off assumptions. So I don't know. I'm very happy that Carolina dodged this bullet because Carolina was next in line to go get him, and just through being fiscally responsible, they turned it down because apparently Watson's camp came to them with this fully guaranteed mess first, and Rule and Tepper looked at it and were like, "Nah, we don't want to guarantee it for 5 years." And then the Browns, who were out of the sweepstakes to begin with, caught whiff of it and called the Watson camp and was like, "Yo, we'll do it. Come to Cleveland." And that's how he became a Cleveland Brown. It wasn't by choice. It was because they're the only team that would guarantee $250 million.
And piggybacking off of that, Desmond, why? I'm asking the Cleveland Browns, why would you do this? Why would you guarantee somebody who is in the middle of a criminal investigation $230 million over 4 or 5 years when you don't even know if he's going to play the entire first season? And
when you're going to have
right. It just doesn't make sense to me. And on top of that, you get rid of your starting quarterback to begin with in Baker Mayfield for less to nothing. And now it doesn't look like Deshaun's going to play at least 6 games, maybe more if the NFL's appeal goes through. Jacoby Brissett is going to be your starter for at least half the season potentially. I mean, that just doesn't
Deshaun
make
Watson's
sense.
not
Why
playing
would you
against
do
Carolina, period.
Actually,
He's not.
he could.
And
He could play against Carolina. What Christian was saying earlier, if Deshaun
if
Watson
it carries out into court,
if they sue them, they take up to federal court. Deshaun Watson's eligible to play until that's settled. And actually, the case that you can look at is Ezekiel Elliott. The same thing happened to him. He challenged it. He was available for week 1. It wasn't settled until like October of that year. He started the first week of his suspension, week 10. So, in theory, if Deshaun Watson wants to play and the NFL does this, he can appeal whatever decision Goodell makes, and it'll drag in federal court almost through the whole season. So you could theoretically see Deshaun Watson versus Baker Mayfield week 1, Cleveland versus Carolina at Bank of America Stadium on September the 11th. And I'm sorry,
whether he chooses, right? And if he chooses to, if that actually happens, I mean, we do know for one thing that he's going to appeal it. I think Deshaun Watson will appeal this, and he's going to fight for the not guilty plea. So,
because he is, unlike what Browns ownership has said, which was that he is remorseful. He's steadfast that he's done nothing wrong. Period.
Right.
What you're remorseful about if you did nothing wrong? See,
exactly.
Like, why are you so remorseful if you did nothing?
Well, he's not. That's what the statement from ownership is so contradictory.
Yeah.
The statement from ownership said Deshaun is remorseful for the trouble and the badness and bad vibes and all of this. No, he's not.
You know what you did. He
knows what he did. He knows he's getting away with it.
You got caught. You got coddled by the Texans for so long that it sounded like it was normal to you, and now you realize it's not normal, and you got sent to Cleveland for your efforts. Like we're leaving out the main story here that he chose to go to Cleveland. Like that should tell everyone like where the situation was. He decided on his own volition to go to the Cleveland Browns and play for this franchise. Cleveland's doing what Cleveland does. Like they are finding a way to mess this up.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. That's the end of the.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, you summed it up perfectly, Des. I mean, couldn't put it any better than you just put it. So
kind of expected this to happen. Didn't know it was going to be this explosive because it's Cleveland, but it's not going to end well.
Nope.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, good. Okay, something was wrong with my mic there. It's been weird today. Anyways, Josh, the patriarch, I guess you could call him, of the Carolina Panthers, and someone else are both headed to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Should have been long before that. Yes, that would be Sam Mills, the creator of the Keep Pounding speech. One of the greatest Carolina Panthers, if not the greatest Carolina Panther of all time. The original great Carolina Panther was on that sophomore campaign team, the first in the stadium, with that ended up losing to Green Bay in that NFC Championship game. You had Sam Mills, Kevin Green, Kerry Collins. Dez has got a clip from that divisional playoff game where people forget this. The moment that the Cowboys' success in the postseason died was when Sam Mills picked off this football from Troy Aikman that Dez is going to pull up here in a second.
The defense also had its day with 4 sacks, 4 turnovers, and a playful romp to the end zone by 37-year-old Sam Mills.
5 touchdown! Sam Mills scores!
I still remember that like it was yesterday. I was a Cowboy fan too. I was transitioning because I didn't have a home team. So it was like once we got the Panthers, my fandom for the Cowboys just left. And then, of course, a year later, they're playing the Cowboys in the playoffs. So you're still seeing remnants of those great early 90s Cowboys teams. But you're right. That was pretty much the end. Carolina kind of ended that dynasty with that playoff win.
And I know we don't have this clip, but Bill Romanowski, longtime voice of the Panthers before Mick Mixon, radio voice, said, "The king is dead. The king is dead. The Panthers have won." The king was dead long after that, too. So, thank you. 1996 Carolina Panthers to my Lord Jimmy Fallon. Thank you, nothing there. Anyways, there would not be a Lambeau Leap. There would not be a thing if it were not for the other main inductee this weekend, Desmond.
Corner and safety blitzes like this one by Leroy Butler were too much for Dave Maggott and the Patriots to handle.
Quick drop straight back here. They come after him, and they got a hand on him. Down he goes. Butler from the right side.
Maggott picked him up. Leroy just physically whooped him.
He ran right over a guy trying to block him.
The inventor of the Lambeau Leap, which should not have even counted as a play because Reggie White was tackled and down for like 7 sustained seconds before he lateraled it to Leroy Butler. But yes, Leroy Butler picked up that football. There was no instant replay in 1992, okay? We're good. Just move on.
You're a Packer fan. You're not supposed to say these kind of things. You're supposed to.
What?
What are you doing? You're not supposed to admit.
Every Packers fan knows that Reggie White.
But they don't speak it out loud. They don't.
No.
They don't go around talking about. Hey, you remember that
Anyways,
time we got away with
the clip you just played, Des. This is why Leroy Butler, and we'll get to why Sam Mills is a Hall of Famer in a second. I'll let Josh speak to that. Here's why Leroy Butler is a Hall of Famer and should have been for a long time. He's top 5 all time in sacks by safeties. What Fritz Schirmer and Mike Holmgren's staff did with Leroy Butler in the 90s on the Green Bay Packers as a blitzing safety was simply genius. There were not a whole lot of teams that had utilized someone like that before. He came out of Florida State. He was picking off passes left and right. Fritz Schirmer came in as the DC in 1995 and said, I got an idea. That sack, like if anyone knows what I'm talking about with Dave Maggott, Dave Maggott was like one of the 10 shortest people in the history of the NFL. Like he was like 5'9", 190 pounds, soaking wet.
Yeah. I mean,
he got left to block Leroy Butler on Drew Bledsoe's blind side twice. Leroy Butler basically picked him up and threw him aside like a rag doll. That changed the course of that Super Bowl. Drew Bledsoe was having his way. The Patriots were winning 10-7 in that game and marching down the field. They blitzed Leroy Butler twice from both sides of the line, once at Bledsoe's face, the other blindsided when he picked up Dave Maggott and basically tackled both of them at the same time. Leroy Butler's versatility as a safety, both in stopping the run, in rushing the quarterback, in making plays in the secondary, Leroy Butler was someone that flew around the field. What a lot of safeties do now greatly, guys like Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed, Brian Dawkins, guys of our era, good say Bob Sanders, safeties of our era that we've seen do that, Tyrann Mathieu. Leroy Butler was one of the first guys that really made that a thing. That made it possible for a safety, Harrison Smith really, to basically play safety, linebacker, and defensive end all in one guy. And that's why, aside from inventing the Lambeau Leap, for God's sake, I mean, come on. He's got a statue of him leaping outside of Lambeau, but he's there. Sam Mills also has a statue. Excuse me, Josh. This is the first real Panther legend, I guess you could say, so to speak, that's ended up in the Hall of Fame. Now, granted, the end of his career was with Carolina. He was picked in the expansion draft. He was part of a Saints defense in the early 90s that was known as the Dome Patrol. That's one of the most oft-forgotten great defenses of its time.
Very creative name, too, by the way.
He came to Carolina and set a tone, set a mindset, and set a slogan.
A slogan that has lasted for over 25 years. And, yeah, I mean, there's no, long soliloquy I have for Sam Mills. I mean, he just was that guy. I mean, he was an inspiring individual. He played well on the field. He fought hard off the field with his battle and that he unfortunately lost to with cancer. But, in that fight, you saw him on the sidelines cheering on his teammates. You saw him, getting his teammates riled up on the sidelines and just being that guy, that encouraging teammate, when he couldn't be on the field with the rest of his team, even though he wanted to be. He just kept pounding, that's as the slogan says, he just kept pounding. And this is so well-deserved. And, you mentioned him being the first real Panther. I mean, Kevin Green played his final season in the NFL with the Panthers, but Sam Mills is the first, in my mind, first legit Carolina Panther to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I could not be more excited. I could not be more thrilled, and I could not be more elated for someone like Sam Mills to finally be enshrined in the Hall of Fame. It's been a long time coming for sure.
Two real quick things with Sam. He got that statue the year after he retired, so it wasn't like there was a long wait or anything. They put the statue up almost.
He was also inducted into the Carolina Panthers Hall of Honor. He's the first
Ring of Honor.
He was the first,
yes. Right?
He only played 3 years here, but in those 3 years, he led the franchise to its first NFC Championship appearance against Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers. Their first playoff appearance, first division championship, and in 2021, at the start of the season here, owner David Tepper made the decision to not use the slogan "Keep Pounding" on the scoreboards, and there was a huge swell online where basically Panther fans had to beg David Tepper, please don't take this away from us. And the very next week it was back, and it's been back ever since. And just between that, the pounding of the drum at the beginning of the game, all these things that have become Panther rituals, they start with Sam Mills. And it's fitting that he's getting in on the last year of eligibility for him, because he's the ultimate underdog. Low man wins. Like, that's the definition of Sam Mills pretty much. So as a Panther fan, as someone that does a lot of stuff for the Panthers, I'm super happy for the franchise that they're finally getting their first Hall of Fame person into the Hall, and that it's Sam Mills.
Yeah. And the next guy that I cannot wait to see in the Hall of Fame, is I know he will be in there one day as a Panther, a guy named Steve Smith Sr.
Smitty!
He needs to be in the Hall of Fame. He will be in the Hall of Fame, and I hope that's very soon.
It might be a wait. There's a glut of wide receivers in front of him.
Yeah.
Like Reggie Wayne, Trey Johnson. Like, there's a lot of dudes.
We're still waiting on Torrey Holt, aren't we?
Torrey Holt as well, yes.
Yeah, there's a huge glut of wide receivers in front of Steve. But I think he's top 10 all time in yards and some other stuff. Yep. So he'll eventually get in. I think the next
Triple Crown winner as well.
Last Triple Crown winner. I don't think anybody's won it since then. That was 05.
Cooper Kupp came close, but I don't know if he got it or not. I could be wrong. But
the one that should get in next, it won't be next year, but the year after, should be Julius Peppers, and he'll probably be first ballot.
Peppers, Packers legend.
Yeah, top 5 in sacks.
Packers legend. Star
Packers weren't the team that drafted him, Brett. They were not the team that drafted him.
Star of the 2001 North Carolina Tar Heels basketball team, Julius Peppers. Yeah, we're going to push the App State UNC QB thing back to next week, because this is too much fun. I like reminiscing. I like being a nerd.
Me too.
Yeah. Julius Peppers did play basketball at the University of North Carolina, but again, that's neither here nor there. Sam Mills, as we said, guys, and I don't know who's presenting him posthumously in Canton on Saturday, but I know whoever it is going to do a fantastic job and is going to do him justice. Des, I don't know if you have, the first clip we played was actually from a game against the Houston Oilers in the Astrodome. That was not the interception clip, but you said low man wins. Guys, people forget Sam Mills was, like 5'10"? Like, he was very very undersized, especially when we look at linebackers now who are really no shorter than 6'3", 6'4". Sam Mills was very much behind the times, but simply outworked everybody else. You would look at him as a physical specimen, even at 37, and say, there's no way. There's no way he pulls this. There's no way he tackles me. There's no way he picks off this pass. Lo and behold, he picks off the supposed best quarterback in football, not named Brett Favre, to clinch a playoff game.
By Aikman, back to pass from his own 7. Puts it up down the middle of the field. Intercepted by Sam Mills. He was going to take a knee and keeps going to the 10. Mills to the 5. Still going towards the end zone. He got to the 1. He got to the 1 yard line. Sam Mills with the icing on the cake.
That was such a fun game to watch, too.
Almost made it to the end zone.
Almost. Yeah. That team was
Well,
nuts.
everybody thought he was going to. I know we don't have the video. Troy Aikman threw it right to him, as if he was trying to throw it at Sam Mills. It's also how good Dom Capers' defense was, but, you know.
Sam knew where it was going. Like, he knew how to read it. Yeah, that defense on that 96 Panther team got to be up there with 03 and 2015 in terms of best in franchise history with Lamar Latham and Kevin Green and Sam Mills in the middle, Tyrone Poole in the back. I mean, like they were legit. Just just a full year into it. It was just fun to be a Panther fan and not have to wait the 5 years or whatever to build something. They did it in like 18 months. It was nuts, but fell short to your Packers.
Speaking of, Leroy Butler's head coach, Mike Holmgren, is a finalist or semifinalist for next year. Des, the clip you pulled up was from that Super Bowl. If you could pull up the Lambeau Leap invention, that will almost certainly be discussed by Leroy, whose Twitter handle, by the way, is Leap36, because what else would it be?
Corner and safety blitzes like this
That's
one
still the
by
Super
Leroy
Bowl
Butler.
clip. Although I love hearing Harry Callis' voice.
Conventional pass rush had failed miserably.
That's still the
so they
Super
stuck
Bowl.
number 36.
Those are the ones you sent me. So
Okay, never mind. I must have screwed that up. Anyways, never a bad time to hear NFL Films narration. But what happened was
we need to give credit to NFL Films for use of the audio too. That's something else that we have to do when we're using clips.
yeah, we have to do that. Harry Callis, R.I.P. Thank you, Harry, Earl Mann, two great narrators, and NFL Films. Rest in power, Steve Sable. But yeah, Leroy. I think I've clamored for him to get in the Hall of Fame even before Brett Favre was eligible. And finally, Leroy Butler has his rightful place. He's top 10 in pretty much every important safety category ever. Sam Mills, for you younger Panther fans out there, he was the original Panther. You would not be wearing keep pounding gear if it were not for Sam Mills. And if you do not watch his induction tomorrow night, I have questions. For Desmond Johnson, Josh Scott, Christian Emery, we Lambeau leap into the weekend and the NFL preseason, which starts in 6 days. Football! We'll see you next week. Good night, Canada.